Time for Gamestetic Game of the Week. John, take it away.
John.
Gamesthetic Game of the Week. This week we're gonna go with Grim Dawn.
Okay.
Grim Dawn is an action RPG. It's. I think it came out in. I'm going to ballpark a year here. I didn't look it up. I think it was around 2016-ish, somewhere around there. Maybe a couple years early on that. It's an action RPG. The main, or one of the main draws to it, or one of the main core features of it is normally in an ARPG, you pick one class that you pick. That's your class to start with the entire time. In Grim Dawn, you pick your starting class, and then as you play through the game, you get to pick a second class that you can level up as well. For like either synergies that they have together or kind of covering the weaknesses of them to like essentially give yourself that extra little bonus or like essentially just cover all your bases. Has a like interesting reputation system where like as you go through it, clearing quests for certain factions like builds the reputation for them. Then and it's like you can only like you can't necessarily build up the reputation for every faction. Pretty straightforward ARPG mechanics of playing through the campaign and then kind of farming the in-game content as you tend to do in these type of games. But it's one of the more enjoyable like non-AAA variants of the game. It's one that has had its time kind of in the spotlight. It's had several DLCs over the years, but these days kind of gets looked over a little bit in favor of like the big dogs in the yard, like Path of Exile and Diablo and that. Mm-hmm. So it's one I enjoy going back to it about once a year, once every like year and a half or so, doing a playthrough of it and having a good time. So highly recommend. If you haven't checked out Grim Dawn, but you like action RPGs, it's a great one to go with. It also has like secrets throughout the world because you have you can actually rotate your camera all the way around to kind of find hidden areas and stuff like that throughout the game as well. So yeah, highly recommend Grim Dawn if you're a fan of ARPGs.
Also, you got it spot on. 2016.
Yep, you did.
February.
And then 2021 for the Xbox One release. And then also, shout out, if you want to get into Grim Dawn, I feel like this year is going to be a great time to do so because the next expansion comes out this year. Fangs of Astrakarn was announced in 2023 and scheduled for 2024, but it has been pushed back to 2025. And also shout out to that for the fact that the first two expansions came out in 2017 was the first one, October 11th, and then the Forgotten Gods expansion was announced in 2018 and released in 2019, and now then that Fangs one was announced in 2023. So the developers is Craft Entertainment decided, you know what, let's pump out a third one. Let's get another expansion out there.
Yeah,
So shout out.
It's one where, like, it's a game, like I said, has kind of smaller community, but it's a community that always comes back to it.
Yeah. Honestly, reviewed pretty well, too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fantastic game in the space. It's just a lot of people haven't heard of it.
I was about to say, it's popped up in my feed multiple times for me to mess with it.
So, shout out to Grim Dawn. That was a good one. Because I may look into that game myself. I've never heard of it until you mentioned it. And I looked it up and I was reading on it. It sounds pretty cool. Shout out to Grim Dawn.
I'll be honest, he mentioned, I was like, is it the one I'm thinking of? And yes, it's the exact one I was thinking of.
All right. That was a good one. That was a good Gamestetic Game of the Week. Shout out Gamestetic Game of the Week.